of a mobile game back in 2012, and it was called Hangpic, Hangpic. So what happened at the time in 2012, I was a fundraiser. My job was to advise startups in their fundraising strategy. And I was probably a little bit frustrated not to be an entrepreneur myself. And what happened is that in 2012, one game called Draw Something was acquired by Zynga for close to 200 millions. And at the same time, another game called Song Pop was becoming very, very, very popular. Someone needs to up. Okay, we are. And Song Pop was popular in the sense that it had millions of users. Draw Something, in short, was basically a game where you were drawing a picture, and the person was supposed to guess what it was, what it represented. And it was the same for Song Pop, where musics were playing, usually 5 different songs, and the faster the faster you were for those 5 songs, and if you were the faster, you was winning the quiz. You were winning the quiz against the other opponent. And the particularity of those 2 applications is that it was not multiplayer live games. It was asynchronous. So basically you were playing a game, and then the same game was sent to the other device, and the person could play that game. And while you were playing that game, you had the feeling that you were playing live with the other person. So for instance, with Song Pop, you were guessing the 5 songs, and then the game was going to the opponent. The opponent could see close to not in real time, because actually the game was replayed, but could feel that in real time that you were kind of guessing the songs, and they were seeing their results and your results. Once the party was over, once the game was over, what you had to do is to start another game, guess other songs, and send back this new game to the opponent. So it was an infinite loop. It was never ending. And the same with Draw Something. We were asking you to draw something for someone to guess that picture. You were drawing it, and once the opponent was playing the game, what it was doing, it was kind of replaying when you were drawing live. And so it gave this impression that you were drawing live while you were not. And it was this infinite loop where you were guessing a picture, you were, and then you were drawing a new one, etc., etc. And at that time, I was thinking, oh, that's great. So someone did this with songs, someone did this with drawings, and we should do it with pictures. And so I started to tell myself, oh, maybe I could start this kind of on the side project. And the name of the company was Play with Pictures. And the goal of Play with Pictures, that exactly like Song Pop, you had a list of 5 different images in different categories. You were guessing those images, and the faster you were, the more chances you had to win the game, to win the party. And so what I did at the time, I raised a little seed round of a few thousand euros, a few dozens of thousands of euros. And then I teamed up with a former entrepreneur that I was advising in his fundraising strategy called Laurent Kratz, who has a computer consulting company. And so he allowed me to work with an iOS developer there. And then I hired at Epitech a backend developer called Arnaud Rouillet, nickname Red. And so the goal there was, how fast could we design the game, develop the backend, develop the front end, and make it work at scale? And what we did, we worked with a small freelancing team in Republic Czech, in Czech Republic. design the product. So I was doing the mock-up. They were designing it. They were sending it to Florian, the iOS dev, who was developing it. And at the same time, Arnaud was developing the asynchronous game engine in Node.js at the time. So we had the backend in Node. The database was Postgre. Oh no, Mongo actually. I think it was Mongo because in real time you prefer to work with Mongo. Or maybe we had a mix of both. I don't remember, but it was probably one or the two. And Florian coding in native iOS. And it took us probably 3 to 4 months to develop the first version of the game. And what happened when we had the first version of the game and that was not it. Because so you had the game, so you had the front end, you had the design, you had the back end, and then you needed the content of the game. For any game, you need the content, okay? So here we had to work with people in offshore, we had to work with offshore platforms, usually in India, to get from internet free of use pictures of celebrities, of places, of animals, of flags, of cities, of vegetables, of whatever you could guess. And so we did that during the time of the development. So in parallel, we were designing, coding the front, coding the back, finding the content. Then we published the game on the App Store. And the first thing we wanted to check if there was some product market fit, because the issues that you have when you do gaming in general is how good people respond to what you're developing. And the difficulty with gaming compared to, I would say, a more classical app is that you need to work a lot before you can get your product out there and have it tested for real. And I think it does explain why hyper casual game works so well, because the time to develop those games, it doesn't take 6, 12, 18 months. What happened in the venture capital industry when you want to invest in gaming, usually what you do, you back teams. You don't back games. You back teams of former veterans of the gaming industry. They tell you, I have this great idea, I'm going to develop it. You give them cash, and then you're going to give them 3, 6, 9, 12 months to develop the game, launch the game, iterate on the game, and see how it goes. And probably 3 or 4 times out of 5, it doesn't work. So what we did at the time to test our product, we used the services of App Gratis, the former company of Simon Davla, who was pushing products to a list of subscribers every day. And from there, we got close to 100,000 downloads. And first, we could check if the app was working at scale, and it did. And it was very pleasant to see the game working at scale with, at the exact same time, close to 100,000 players. And also what we did is that we were testing if people were retaining. I have to be honest, people were not retaining. It didn't work that well. And it didn't work that well for, I think the main reason is that when you talk about song and when you talk about drawing, there is a creative aspect in drawing and an emotional aspect with songs. When you guess a picture, there's none of that. There's nothing creative and there's nothing emotional. You're basically, and I think it would have worked even better to do a game without images and categories and just with math, 2 + 2, 3 multiplied by 4, whatever. I think people would have found this challenging. The issue with picture is either you know the picture, either you don't know it, and then it's how fast you are. But there is no mental challenge, no psychological challenge, no creative challenge, no emotional challenge, no nothing. And we didn't realize that at the time. It took some time for us to realize that. And also what I figured is that I was a fundraiser. My job was to advise companies in their fundraising strategy. It was not to have my company, and it was difficult for me to do both at the same time. To develop HankPick on one side, and to be a fundraiser on the other side. Also because I had started EnkPeak out of frustration of not being an entrepreneur and not out of passion or a real will to do something. So I guess I didn't have the grit and the motivation to keep going for too long. And so after a few months, it was not working so well, and we stopped. But I think what we did very well at the time, and it's a lesson for us all, is that you need to install a certain velocity within the team. If you don't install this velocity, you might lose some time to develop your game or your product, and at the expense of, and for nothing. And so what we did very well is that we developed all 4 elements: design, front, back, and content at the same time, and it went very, very fast. And I can tell you that because at the same time, this is when I met the team at Zenly, and it was when they were doing their first product called Alertus. And when they were doing it, they had some serious backend issues due to the unreliability of everything related to location sharing on mobile. And I think with EnkPeak, we could have failed in many occasions, just on the way we were storing the data, on the technology we use for backend, on many things, and we didn't. It worked pretty well. But the hard thing with gaming is that it only starts when the game gets published or when you do your first testing, because before that, all you're doing, it's technical, creative choices, and you try to ship as fast as possible.
Thank you.
Do you have any question?
Yes, I'm going to start. So you had a lot of downloads because you used App Gratis. Mm-hmm. What do you advise us to use today to get downloads to test our game?
You could use what's it's called. Any affiliation platform would work. You could work with AppLovin. If you build a casual game, you just call Voodoo to have it tested. Voodoo is working with hundreds, thousands of gaming studios. So I think this is the best way to test your game. But it depends what kind of game you're doing. If you're doing an hyper casual game, Voodoo, AppLovin, all those guys are great partners to work with. If you're doing a game that is more like a Supercell kind of game or a Candy Crush like, it will require a lot more of effort. And to be honest, with the competition out there, with all the gaming studios, I think it's getting very, 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 very hard to build a game with the quality of a Supercell while being super agile with a small team. Except if you crack something that didn't exist before, and that is very, very appealing for people.
Okay.
And so you talked about product market fit. So for a game, like, what do you think is the most important metric to follow? Maybe first, in order to identify if you should continue developing the game, and to identify if there is a product market fit or not?
Well, it's always the same with consumer applications in general. There is a question of market concentration applied or not. We'd say retention applied to market concentration. What you do when you publish a game or any kind of app, usually what you try to do is that you try to assess the retention among the number of players or number of users that you have. And the issue is if your users or players are too spread out in terms of geography, you cannot test the effect of the word of mouth and how good and how fast it spreads among a certain community. So what you should do when you launch a game or you launch an application, first is to launch it in a concentrated area. It could be your neighbor, it could be your school, it could be your city, but you need to launch it in a concentrated area because it's concentration that drives organic growth. And you need to test if there's organic growth. So you launch it in a concentrated geography, and then you see if there is organic growth on one part. How likely people are to share their discovery with their friends. So do not hesitate to ask them directly. And if they say yes, provide them with a pop-up so they can share it with their friends, or a quick link to send over WhatsApp or Telegram or whatever, or Discord. And look at the retention over the first day, first 7 days, 2 weeks, 1 month. And what happens when you see the retention over your user base, it allows you to define your monetization strategy. Are you trying to keep your user for as long as possible? And in that case, how do you plan to monetize them? Or do you find that they play easily for like 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, and then leave? And if it's the case, the question is, can you sell them some in-app purchases, or can you provide them with enough advertising so that it covers your cost of advertising to acquire those users?
So everyone, if you want to ask questions, you can write them directly on the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and ask it directly if you prefer.
Don't be shy.
And what is the last game you invested in with Kima?
So what happened in 2012 when we launched NPIC, at the same time, a company was doing pretty well. It was called Cimob, SCIMOB. It was acquired by Webedia a few years later. And they had published a game called 94 Seconds, which worked very, very, very well. And I met quickly with Gael, the CEO at the time. Then he sold his company to Webedia, and recently he started a new company again in gaming as well. And so we backed him. It was probably 2 months ago.
Okay. And so you backed the team and not really the game yet.
You cannot back back the game.
As you say,
it's impossible. It's there is no way. Either you always back the team. Even if you were backing Voodoo, you would not back the game. You would back the engineering approach of the two founders to build those games. I mean, Voodoo was funded back in 2014. I was not at Kima yet. I wonder what I would have done if Alexandre had pitched me back in 2014. I don't know.
And for you, what is the ideal team, or let's say the must-have skills in the team you will back?
So velocity is one. How fast do you go? I would say the engineering aspect of how you build your product matters a lot, because if your engine is too scrappy, if your code is spaghetti, it won't scale, and so you will always fight against your own liabilities. So it's an issue. So engineering skills, velocity, and probably a data mindset, the ability to quickly look at the numbers and figure what to do with them. I think this is something that the data mindset and velocity is probably something that Alexandre at Voodoo has.
And to come back to your own game, when you decided to stop, was it a hard decision or was it obvious? What made you stop? Because I mean, 100,000
was a bit,
download
yeah.
is a lot. It's not like you had 10 users, you had a lot of users.
I mean, I could feel it. I know I was not in this game and in this venture for the long term. I had played myself thinking that, I was doing this for the right reasons and blah, blah, blah. And and it was 2012, probably still young and thinking that I had this great idea that could monetize very quickly and that would be great. And it was not the case. Miriam, what rookie mistakes should we be aware of in mobile gaming development? Well, it's a long road. It's a long road, and there is no recipe for success. So no recipe for success. No, I should not say that, but there is no recipe to make a great game. The great game is a combination of so many things. I think the rookie mistake is to think that you have the greatest idea in the world and it's going to work. You never know if it's going to work. So you need to try your assumptions out. And in order to do that, regardless again that you're building and you're shipping and you're advertising, make sure that you do it relatively quickly in a concentrated area, and that you look at the numbers and only the numbers, because men lie, women lie, data don't lie, especially in gaming.
And like during these hackathons, they have basically 5 days to build their own game, and at the end,
which is short.
Exactly, it's very short. And at the end, there are 3 prizes. There is like the jury prize, so this one we'll see like who gets it. Then there is the Megatron, so basically everyone will vote. Every participant will vote for the best team, exclusive themselves. And then the final prize is to the team who sell it the most.
Okay.
So how would you, what tips could you give for them maybe to win the last prize, which is how to sell it the most in a few days?
Well, it's tricky because your job is basically to sell shit to users. So what you're gonna have to do is to make sure that they get addicted quickly enough so they want to keep playing and watch your advertising, which will eventually allow you to make money. Or you want them to play long enough so they get frustrated once you decide to put a wall in front of them, and that they realize that they need to pay if they want to move quickly. Because what you will do, you will create this addiction, and at some point you need to make sure that you don't provide them with enough products, okay? And so that they have to pay in order to progress. And so so this is one thing. The second thing is you make them play and after 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, I don't know how long it takes to get addicted to your game, you put a paywall, a straight paywall. If you want to keep paying, you pay the price or you go away. I think this is the best strategy at that point. And once you see the conversion rate on this basis, you will know what it takes for you to advertise your game. And so then it's a rolling strategy where you advertise at a good enough price so you find your money back whenever someone purchase an in-app or subscribe to the game. And you see it with Voodoo and you see it with other games. You need to put enough advertising so that people get fed up and they want to buy the no ads in-app purchase. And you want to provide enough frustration in an addictive gameplay so that whenever you ask them to pay, they do it. And I don't know how much it is. If it's 3, 4, 5, 10 euros, you should make a wild guess. But people don't pay if you don't ask them. So ask them to pay. That's the best way for them to put the their credit card out there. In France, we tend to build great product and we expect people to naturally come to us to buy them. Nobody buys something that hasn't been sold in a way. So you need to sell your product.
Very interesting. And then we have a very long question from Remy.
Alors, games work on device. Next gaming device is car. Full self-driving comes soon. FSD mean more time for work or entertainment. Tesla already working on making their car gaming console will compete. No, true. What do you think about that and future gaming devices platform like Google, Stadia, or Xbox xCloud? So the thing with Stadia, xCloud, or even Tesla going into this industry, very bluntly, I'm not very interested in that because it's not a game for me. It's it would be like asking me what do I think about the battle between Huawei and Apple. I don't care. You know, Huawei is doing Android, Apple is doing iOS. I'm an Apple user. End of the story. What people, you know, I mean, what people care about Huawei versus Apple is great, but it's not my field of interest. However, what happens in general is that when an habit that was taking a lot of time change, we need to figure out what to do with this time. So whenever we back a company, especially in the consumer space, we're trying to assess if it's something that will save you time or if it's something that will make you make you use your time. And we need to assess whether people will have enough time to switch to this new habit, if it's an app that requires that you use your time, or if it's a product that can be used at the same time of something else. For instance, why do you think that the consumptions of audio-related applications has skyrocketed over the past few months, few years, whatever? It's because when people are driving, when people are in the subway, whenever people are doing something, they have this ability to listen to something at the same time. And so they're doing it. And so when you're a podcast on where you're basically an application that allow people to consume this kind of entertainment in a passive way, you don't use the time that is available, but you use the time that is already used. So for us as venture capitalists, we're trying to assess in the space of time, where are you? Are you replacing something? Are you parallel to something? Are you getting this small slot between two activities where people didn't know what to do, et cetera, et cetera? And so what will happen with Tesla and with self-driving car would be very interesting to see how people use their time and to do what. And I don't know.
And then Miriam asks, what is your favorite mobile games? Or the one you found the most interesting?
That's a good question. So it was a long time ago. It was 20 years ago. I was playing StarCraft, first version of StarCraft. And at the time when we were playing StarCraft, we were not playing StarCraft at home. We were playing StarCraft in internet cafe. So those things. So I played StarCraft for a while, which I liked, but I was not good enough, and I was getting very frustrated with all my friends getting better than me. Then what did I play? I played Command and Conquer that I liked. Warcraft 2, I liked it too very much. So those are all games because I'm not a gamer per se. I haven't played in a while. My kids are a big fan of Fortnite, of course. And my daughter is playing, the tap musical games where you're taping. It was like Guitar Hero kind of game, and voila. But do I have a favorite game? No, I don't think so. I'm not playing.
And what's the last game you played? If you remember. Because I know you play Space Invaders, right? If it's not really a game, but Space Invaders.
Yeah. True. Let me check. So what was the last game? Let's see. Alors. I need to make sure it's a game that I did download and not my kids. I have so many of them. Oh yeah, my eldest son make me play Johnny Trigger. Johnny Trigger is from Say Games, a competitor of Voodoo.
Okay.
Voilà.
Perfect. I will play that one. Okay, I think we are done with the questions. So thank you a lot, Jean, for your talk and for the replies you gave. I'm sure it's gonna be helpful for them.
Thanks for having me. And if they have any questions, you can reach out to me. My email is public. It's pretty much everywhere. But just in case, if Google is not your friend, you are.
And if you're okay, we'll publish this recording on YouTube so that the other participant can see it.
Sure.
Because some of them are asleep.
Okay. Are you sure this is the way you do a hackathon, by sleeping?
Well, some people play from California and some people play from like Russia and everything. So it's not, everyone is not in front. So maybe they're sleeping, that's why.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks for your time, guys, and reach out to me if you need anything.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.